He grew marijuana. He intended to sell it, but he got caught. He was then sentenced to more than 24 years in jail, and under the mandatory minimum sentence rule, no chance of parole. And yet today, 24 years isn't up, and here he sits. Peter Ninemire, former marijuana seller. So how come you're not in jail?
Because on the greatest day of my life, former President Bill Clinton commuted the remaining 14 and a half years I had left on my federal mandatory minimum sentence, and I became a free man. Thanks in large part to Families Against Mandatory Minimums, my federal government defender, and a lot of folks that really supported me over the years while I was in prison.
You served 10 years. And then got out. And then a few years later, the president came to Kansas to make a speech. That's where Peter lives. Peter got a chance to talk to him. A Kansas NBC station covered that.
President Clinton worked his way along the security fence, shaking hands and taking pictures.
He goes, "Oh, you're the guy that was in the paper." He says, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. God bless you." I said, "No, Mr. President, God bless you." We both had tears in our eyes, and it was just awesome.
All right, so that was a happy moment, and he commuted your sentence the day that President Bush was inaugurated. So
I was getting ready to go eat chow, and I had kind of given up on my commutation, and I got news that I needed to come to the unit in the Lower West unit. I actually was afraid that maybe another family member had something terrible happen, because 4 months previous to that, my mother died while I was in prison.
If you're now a drug counselor, you counsel other people who have drug problems.
Addictions and mental health therapist, licensed social worker.
All right, but President Clinton commuted 36 sentences on that day. You got off because the sentencing judge, Richard Rogers, wrote to the president about the excessiveness of your sentence. There is little disagreement, he said, among judges and academics that the long-term incarceration of drug offenders is ineffective and a huge drain on taxpayers. And the president commutes your sentence, and that's great. But there are thousands of these sentences. You got to know the right politician. You got to have a friendly judge. This doesn't seem fair.
I have a lot of survivor's guilt about the thousands of people that I left behind in federal prison that I feel are equally or more deserving. A lot of those would be women who left behind children. I have a 9-year-old daughter now. I can't imagine what it would be like to be separated from her. So, you know, that was part of it, but also a big part of it was Families Against Mandatory Minimums and getting, you know, this brought to President Clinton's attention.
President Clinton admits he smoked weed and had some mandatory minimum been around, and had he been caught, and yet he's presiding over a system that locks people like you up. It just seems really
hypocritical, you think?
Yeah. Had you even heard of mandatory minimums when you got hauled off to jail?
No, I really never. No, it was, you know, I'd had some other scrapes with the law, but this was the first time I was looking at prison, and I was looking at...
I mean, some people say if we know that the bad guy, it's you, the bad guy, knows there's a mandatory minimum, but most criminals don't even know about it.
No, actually, you're so caught up in the lifestyle and addiction and the whole thing, you're so separated from that. I mean, I come from a really great family, and it just took over my life. Started off with marijuana, and that was primarily my drug of choice, and it just, you know, you're just captured. I became, you know, in my own prison, if you will.
But the politicians argue these drugs hurt people. We got to lock people up longer. That'll teach them a lesson. That'll solve the problem.
Okay, well, here's the deal. I needed intervention. And I really, being in prison and actually having some accountability and stopping my cycle with my drugs, my associates, and lifestyle, I mean, truly, I needed some help there. And I needed to be held accountable. But did I need 24 and a half years? I think myself and a whole lot of people, half or more of the people I saw in federal prison were people like myself. They were good people, got on a wrong track, and just to throw away their lives, which is what I felt like it was. I felt like it said I was incorrigible, I was non-rehabilitative, and I was never going to have another chance at life if I wouldn't be the luckiest guy on the planet.
Well, I'm glad you got out. Thanks to President Clinton. Peter Ninemire, thank you. Coming up,